Storytime about how I got an insane stalker from working at a strip club and professionally cuddling. Professionally cuddling is like platonic touch therapy. I'm essentially paid $100 an hour to listen to clients vent and non-sexually cuddle them. I met lots of different clients, both good and bad. You can always tell who's good or bad by their karma. A karma is like a review. One of my clients who was especially respectful was named George, and I will tell you why George is very sus later on. He was really chill and he would take me out to do anything I wanted to do, such as restaurants or mini golfing. Even if we weren't cuddling, he'd still pay me. Gotta get that bag. While I did spend a lot of my time with him, I did have other clients. One person after him that we'll call Tim left a review on my karma, saying that I was the best cuddler. The next day, I woke up to the site banning me for inappropriate behavior. There was fake inappropriate screenshots sent in, where someone was clearly using photos you could easily find on my Instagram. And the text literally said, "I'll even let you touch my butt." Like, who even talks like that? Then Tim sent me a screenshot of him getting a message from a random number. That's when I realized it may have had to do with his review. I quickly got my account back because I let the site know I was being harassed, but this is when things got worse. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Storytime about my crazy stalker that I got from professionally cuddling and working at a strip club. So not long after I got my banned account back, I received a message from a random number telling me to delete my account by 10 p.m. that night, or else they would tell my family that I was professionally cuddling. They sent my mom, dad, and stepmom's number in the text, so I knew they were serious. I was like, who are you and why are you doing this? And they claimed that they were an old friend from high school and that they were extremely concerned about me and that the old me wouldn't have done this. This didn't sound like anyone I knew, but I decided that I was just going to go ahead and tell my parents because I did not want anyone holding anything over me. So I let my parents know and they were extremely supportive. And when I didn't delete my account and they reached out, my mom clapped back at this person and said if they were actually my friend, they would support me and not conceal their identity. Fast forward a little bit, I started working at a strip club. I thought the stalker stuff was done. Not long after I liked the Facebook page of the strip club I was working at, I received a text from a random number asking if I worked at that strip club with a photo of me from that Facebook page. This is when I got an even bigger threat than before. Stay tuned for the next part and follow me on Instagram. Storytime part 3 about my crazy stalker that I got from professionally cuddling and working at a strip club. So after my stalker found out that I was working at a strip club, he sent me my next threat. Because he found out through Facebook, he got a hold of all my friends and family list. Guys, I honestly recommend keeping your Facebook friends private. And he was going to tell them all by 10 p.m. if I don't quit. I picked up the phone, started yelling at him, and all I heard was silence on the other end. So then a Facebook page named Kathy, who was like an old lady and obviously was a fake Facebook, sent this message to everyone with the photo of me working at the strip club, including my grandma. Like, are you trying to give my grandma a heart attack? So I had to explain to everyone that I was working there, but not as a stripper. This is when George reached back out to me, saying that he also got the same message from Kathy. But how would this mysterious Instagram know to message him? He was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're working at a strip club with all those dirty old men. He offered to help and said I should quit. And that's when I put the pieces together that he was my stalker. I was able to compile the evidence together and get my old account back, which he'd banned again. And I haven't heard from him since. If you have a story like this, follow me on Instagram and shoot me a DM. Storytime about how I found out my dad was hooking up with other men on Craigslist. To provide a little bit of backstory, when my sister was 16, she came out as bisexual. My dad, being homophobic and conservative, kicked her out. So this set a tone for when I was born. I was raised to be anything but gay. If something looked, smelled, or seemed straight, he forced it on me. ATVs, monster trucks, whatever. My mom, on the other hand, was a lot more kind-hearted. She let me use her makeup and nail products, and essentially anything that I was interested in, such as gaming and fashion. Because of arguments and my dad cheating, my parents decided to get a divorce. But they did have joint custody. When I would go to my dad's, it seemed like his homophobia was getting worse. He would blast adult entertainment on the TV and bring home girls from his little biker gang. One day I accidentally left the AC on and it flooded the apartment. This led to a massive argument between my dad and I. We started arguing about everything, including the girls that he was bringing home. I stated that I didn't like girls in that way, and that's when everything clicked for him about my sexuality. Then he kicked me out. I was homeless until my mom was able to come get me. Years later, I got a voice message from my sister saying dad's gay. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Insta. Storytime about how I found out my dad was hooking up with other men on Craigslist. I absolutely did not believe my sister whenever she said that dad was gay. I was like, absolutely, there's no way. What's the proof? And I guess my dad had given his grandson, my nephew, his old laptop. On this laptop, he still had his ads up that basically said, come leave money on the seat for services. And it had a picture of his white truck. I was still in denial for the longest time because of how homophobic my dad was. But we decided to watch the Craigslist account for a bit. And during a time that we knew that he was dropping off our grandma in Florida, he posted on Craigslist using that exact rental car that he was using. Even though I was pretty much convinced at this point, it was later verified by a family friend who had seen him at a brothel that this was in fact true. He also was a locksmith for a living and used this job title in the email associated with the account. So for that upcoming Christmas, we compiled all the evidence together, put it all into a stocking, and set it out for family Christmas. Follow the guy who sent me this story, and if you have a story that you'd like to share, DM me and follow me on Instagram. Storytime about my extremely toxic best friend. We'll call her Kim. So Kim was always extremely obsessive with me. She would always question me anytime I was hanging out with someone that wasn't her. I thought it was maybe just some sort of codependence, but then I realized how toxic she was after I got a boyfriend. The second that I told her, she was like, we have to test him. We have to see if he'll cheat on you, and I can be the bait. And I was like, absolutely not. Yet she went ahead and did it anyways. She messaged him saying how lonely she was and was flirting with him. Like, who does that? For some reason, I still told myself she was trying to be a concerned friend. But many months later, after I got a new boyfriend and then we broke up, she reached out and started flirting with him and being extremely touchy. We literally had a rule that we couldn't get with each other's exes, as girls should. But I confronted her one day and I was like, what is going on with you and Brad? And Kim admitted that she had feelings for my ex. I was like, he literally has a girlfriend. Don't be a homewrecker. You'll just be a rebound. But she went ahead and got with him anyways. He broke her heart 24 hours later. And she came to me crying and I just sat there like this. But then her obsession with me got worse. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Story time about my extremely toxic best friend. So for weeks, she was still hung up over hooking up with my ex. And anytime I was talking to someone else, she would always ask if it's a boy or a girl, and then she would go out of her way to be close with them. So at this point, we pretty much just had the same friend group. Everything was shared between us. She was completely obsessed with whoever I was in a relationship with at the time. She would ask so many questions, accuse me of stealing her crushes, and would go through my phone. When she would read through my text, she would give me a whole entire lecture afterwards about how she'd never say or do the things that I do. I told her that I was just trying to have normal conversations with these guys. She also started talking about my body a lot. Kim would talk about how she was too flat and she wanted boobs and a butt like me, and then obsess over it for days. She even had the audacity to try to get other people to spread rumors about me. She did everything in her power to make the people that were close to me hate me. Thankfully, she is now officially out of my life and annoying another girl. Choose your friends wisely, and if you guys have a story that you'd like to share, follow me and DM me on Instagram. Story time. My toxic best friend outed me to the entire school. So one day, one of my best friends from a neighboring school decided to move to my school, and she was extremely upset because her best friend over there came out as bi. So I ended up using this as an opportunity to come out bi as well. And she was like, well, it's okay for you. I just got really close to her. We'll call the girl Becky because no one likes a Becky, and we can call her friend Heather. So fast forward to after the situation had calmed down, we decided to all go prom dress shopping. So Heather and I were talking and we really hit it off. And I think Becky legitimately forgot about our sexuality because we were all talking about how much we have in common, and we brought that up as well. She just looked at us and was like, oh, I forgot about that. And she just shrugged it off. But we continued to hang out for a few weeks. One of these weekends, we all went to church together, and the sermon was about how God accepts you no matter what your sexuality is. But of course, Becky turns around to us and says that Heather and I could never date because it would F everything up. Later that day, Heather actually ended up admitting that she had feelings for me, and this is when Becky lost it. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Part 2 of my toxic best friend outing me to the entire school. So at the beach later that day, Heather and I decided to tell Becky how we felt. She freaked and wouldn't talk to us and locked herself in the bathroom. And we had to tell her that it's fine, we won't date, just so she would let herself out. I thought she was being entirely selfish, not wanting her best friends to be happy. And then she literally took my phone and went through all of our texts together. She woke up the next day all ready for Heather and I to be together and completely apologized. And then when we went to the mall that day, she walked away from us to go look at the hot guys, but then turned around and got pissed at us for falling behind. And this is why she said she didn't want us to date, yet we weren't even dating. She said she felt like she was gonna have to choose between Heather and I because of the whole situation, and I guess she just picked me. Becky became extremely codependent and didn't want to leave my side. She was pissed if I spent time with anyone else and basically forced Heather out of my life. I ended up running into Heather and inviting her to my 18th birthday, and this is when Becky had her massive breakdown. At my birthday, she outed me to everyone at the party, my mom, and Heather's mom as well. My Insta is linked below for more content. Story time. So I was accidentally a homewrecker. So the regular dating sites just weren't doing it for me, so I started dating on a fetish site. I soon matched with this guy around the end of March, and he was so attractive, and we decided to meet up. Obviously, this was more for the purpose of hooking up, but we got along so well, and he acted like he really liked me. He was the vice president of a massive company, 23 years older than me, and also had lots of money, which made him one big intriguing package. We started to meet up several times a week, but his only rule was we weren't allowed to meet on weekends, and I was never allowed to sleep over. I just figured it was because he was busy. Things progressed and we were still seeing each other in May. He introduced me to all of his coworkers and he was super affectionate with me in front of them. And he also introduced me to his receptionist as his girlfriend. However, things went way downhill when he picked me up from my house one day. He was making out with me and driving out of the neighborhood, and then I looked down and I saw a ring. He goes, this is just so the girls at the gym don't flirt with me. And I was like, dude, I know you work out at a private gym. So that's when he admitted that he has 2 houses, one for me and one for his family. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Instagram. Part 2 of me accidentally being a homewrecker. So of course I freaked when he said that he had 1 house for me and 1 house for his family. Like, what does that even mean? So he said that we'll go back to his place and he'll explain. And I was like, no, I want to know what's going on right now. So he pulled the car over and he said that he's married to a woman who hasn't been home a lot because of COVID. She's a nurse. So he's been lonely and she was too vanilla for him. Then he told me his real name. So he had given me a fake name and a fake social media for months. I broke down because I was so pissed. And he kept saying that he cared about me and wanted to keep things the way that they were, so that's why he wasn't telling me. And he says that it wasn't hurting his wife or kids because they didn't know. And that's when I slapped him and told him that I couldn't believe that he made me into a homewrecker, and I asked him to take me right back home. When I got home, I blocked his number, and then I went on Facebook to look at pictures of his wife and kids. And I thought about reaching out and telling her so many times, but I was so scared that he was going to release pictures of me if he ever found out. None of his friends or coworkers ever said anything, so I'm sure he's just done this a million times. My Insta is below. Follow me and DM me if you have a story.
Storytime. My boyfriend cheated on me with not one, not two, but 26 different girls. And like all of these relationships start, we met on a dating app. As I was just casually scrolling through, I came across him, James, and I thought that he was so cute. So I obviously decided to hit him up. And we had a really, really good connection. But one hesitation that I had about him is that he was on his phone a lot, sometimes even ignoring me in the process. But we continued to date for about 3 years. We were still really young at the time, just 18, but we were very serious about each other. And we decided to make a step to move in together. He was currently living with his grandmother, so I decided to move in with them. His grandma and I got along so well, we were basically best friends, so it worked out. One day his ex randomly showed up, and because of this, it led to James and I getting into a massive fight. It got so bad that I decided to leave and stay with my mom for a few days. And while it was over, I got a request to join a closed Facebook group of 26 different women. Stay tuned for part 2 and add me on Instagram. Part 2 to my boyfriend cheating on me with not one, not two, but 26 different women. So obviously I was like, what the heck is this? Why are people requesting me to be in their Facebook group when I don't know them? And immediately I was greeted with some questions. And I already had a little bit of an inkling that it had to do with James because of his ex showing up. But a lot of the girls wanted to know if James and I were still together. And I was like, yes, we've been dating for a few years. Most of them said that they had been dating James for a few months, but some of them said years. So we were all literally dating this man. Even though this was difficult to process, they all had screenshots with proof, and they all had nasty pictures that he had sent them. A lot of the girls lived in different states too. He would just falsely promise that he was going to save up money and move with them. When I went home to go confront him on this, he said that all 26 of them were lying. He even said that some of them were his family members, which is a disgusting excuse. I'm not even for sure on why he thought that would be the lie to use, but I broke up with him that day. Follow me on Instagram, and if you have a story you want to share, DM me.